Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. From combating the rise in crime to transforming a symbol of hate into unity, we shine a light on a few of America's unsung heroes who are embracing change. First up, we're taking a look at the rising mental health crisis among our nation's youth. Lilia Luciano takes us to one school district in Nevada that's focusing on social and emotional support for its students.
Welcome.
In Nicholas Orr's Las Vegas high school classroom, he's teaching more than science.
Right where it says add file. I will be the first to tell you, you matter, you are loved, you are never alone.
Orr says his students returned from remote learning different.
I've had to work with our social workers more times than I can even count, just because so many kids are hurting.
And grieving. In the Clark County School District alone, at least 30 students have died by suicide since the pandemic began. Nationwide, the CDC says 44% of America's high school students reported they persistently felt sad or hopeless in the past year. To confront the challenge, the Clark County School District started a weekly social and emotional learning lesson.
Honestly, it does help a lot, like just that moment of like 5 minutes of talking about, oh, today was not the best day.
We met Sierra Vista High School students Maurice, Alex, and Giovanna as they discussed the topic of belonging.
Now that we're all back, I feel like a lot of people are more, like they're not as willing to just talk to someone new.
What was the impact of that? What are you seeing happening in the school?
People feeling alone, I guess, like they don't really have that many friends, or they feel like they lost a lot of people.
Principal Jessica Lovell brings a therapy dog to school every day and says her teachers know the job takes more than what's required.
Well, I think it goes back to that teacher as kind of have to wear different hats. So am I teaching right now? Am I a therapist right now? Am I talking kids down right now? Am I talking about what's happening in the world?
So go ahead and do that.
Nick Orr knows the consequences of missing the signs of distress.
If I didn't see this in my own brother, someone with who I was living with, how am I going to see it in someone that I see for 84 minutes every other day?
In August of 2020, Nick's 18-year-old brother Anthony was among those 30 students the district lost to suicide. He had just graduated.
He was popular.
Yeah, popular. He kept everything hidden and on his phone, he didn't vocalize when he needed help.
Saving others is now his mission.
We need to take a lot of pressure off kids as far as grades and academics, and put more pressure on happiness and well-being, and just it's okay to not be okay as long as you have a plan to get back to okay.
We now move on to another mission, this time addressing food waste. A growing movement is turning what otherwise would be tossed into the trash into new edible products. It's called upcycling, and Nancy Chin gives us a taste.
We're like the weird people asking about the waste instead of the beer, you know?
Like when you went on brewery tours?
Yeah. We're the only ones asking what is your waste? What do you do with it?
When Berta Jimenez moved to the United States from Ecuador for graduate school, she never expected to be on the cutting edge of baking.
Before you started all this, you weren't really a beer drinker or a baker.
That's correct. My background was mechanical engineering, so nothing related with baking.
But when she showed up at Keg and Lantern Brewing Company in Brooklyn, New York, with a bucket in hand, head brewer Jeff Lyons had just what she was looking to tap into.
What is this?
So this is malted barley. This is the aftermath.
You must produce a lot of this.
Absolutely. We probably have about a dozen of these on average per week.
That spent grain has long been discarded, but with the goal of sustainability, Jimenez co-founded Rise, a company collecting nutritious scraps otherwise thrown away during food production to make flour.
That's 12 times the fiber, 2 times the proteins, and 1/3 of the carbs. It's really, really delicious, and it's also sustainable.
They transformed that food waste into ingredients for new products in a process called upcycling. Rise's first target, malted barley.
So best case scenario, this would go to animal feed.
Yes.
Worst case scenario, this goes to a landfill.
Yes.
Instead, she made it something to eat. Jimenez and her team preparing what they call super flour, crafted for bloggers and pilsners. It returned with surprising feedback from a chef.
We said we are so sorry that it has some flavor. And he was actually that's the part that I really like.
Since launching in 2017, Rise has quickly expanded, partnering with bakeries and restaurants. They've also started consulting major companies on how to reuse their waste, including beer giant Anheuser-Busch. While Jimenez says Rise flour is the first of its kind, she's far from alone. Upcycling was featured as a top trend of 2021 by both Food Network magazine and Whole Foods. Turner Wyatt created the Upcycled Food Association in 2019.
What exactly is upcycled food?
It's a way of taking otherwise wasted food and creating something new and nutritious out of it to prevent food waste.
About 1.3 billion tons of food are wasted every year globally. The association represents more than 140 businesses across 20 countries. Some are big companies like Dole, while others are startups with product lines devoted solely to upcycled food, like snacks made of salmon skins or makeup powder crafted from rice starch.
There's already more than 400 upcycled products on the market, but consumers don't know which ones they are because there's no label, there's no way to identify which are the upcycled products.
And while the term upcycling is new, the practice is as traditional as simmering scraps for broth as it is innovative.
Is upcycling the solution to food waste?
I would say it's one of the solutions.
Ned Spang is an associate professor of food science and technology at UC Davis and works with the Upcycled Food Association.
What could the impact of upcycling be on the food supply chain?
I think it's less likely to disrupt it and more likely to kind of improve it. It helps us to do more with less, what we're already producing.
Could this really change the way we think about how we eat?
I think that really is the first step, not just for upcycling, but thinking about food loss and waste in general, is that we think about our role as a consumer.
That sustainability can reap benefits thousands of miles away, like at a cacao farm in Costa Rica. Here, the cacao fruit is used almost in its entirety to create a new brand of chocolate called Candid.
Candied Noons is still chocolate.
Yeah, it's still chocolate.
Chris Kajander is Candid CEO. He engineered a way to use part of the fruit usually thrown out.
We essentially extract the pulp and remove it, set it aside, and then go about making chocolate the way chocolate is made. And then we reincorporate the pulp as the primary sweetener.
To actually see it in my hand right here is you realize how much of it does get thrown out if all you're using are the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Noons are already in 400 stores nationwide. Chocolate returning to its origins.
Am I eating the seed?
Yeah.
Was I supposed to spit the seed out? Yeah. Well, it tastes good.
The upcycling movement aims to readjust our concept of food, even how we describe it, when anything and everything can be ingredients.
All of these things, it's been declared a waste because the way we treat it. But if we just change the supply of how we take it, how we transport it, how we store it, it shouldn't be a waste. It should be an ingredient, it should be food, it should be whatever you want to make it with them. It shouldn't go to the landfill.
After the break, we head to another city in New York that's among many around the country experiencing a disturbing surge in violent crime. We show you how a special task force is on a mission to curb the recent uptick in homicides. This is Eye on America. Homicides in major U.S. cities spiked in 2021 with a 5% increase from 2020 and a 44% increase over 2019. But Jeff Begays gives us an in-depth look at how law enforcement in Buffalo are working to get guns and criminals off the streets.
It's a firearms narcotics search warrant. Anybody have any questions?
Shortly before 6 a.m., SWAT teams in Buffalo are prepping to serve search warrants. What could go wrong?
I mean, worst case scenario, someone could lose their life.
Part of a new federal and local strategy against violent crime and murder. Lead FBI agent Steve Bologna says during the pandemic, homicides surged.
Crime is spiking and there's blood in the streets. You have to do something now.
The tactical units just breached this home right here. They're looking for a suspect in connection with a drug case. Here in Buffalo, the FBI and local police changed their strategy, focusing on cases that can be solved quickly, sharing intelligence, and using federal charges against some suspects to keep them off the streets and in jail.
So he had fentanyl, shotgun.
Fentanyl, shotgun so far.
Yeah, so far.
We have an ability to hold people. We have an ability to protect our sources.
The FBI's top criminal agent, Luis Quesada, says the changes have paid off in recent months. Is it working?
Yes. There was a reduction in impact of a 50% reduction of homicides.
Erie County Sheriff John Garcia says a surge in violent crime started after George Floyd's murder, anti-police demonstrations, and COVID. Officers took a step back. Law enforcement has slowed down in terms of catching up to criminals?
I believe so.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely. We have to unleash our police again.
This is what unleashing the police looks like. Inside a townhouse, a stash of drugs, money, and a weapon.
And the dope was in the kids' room.
Wait a second. So the dope was hidden in a child's room?
Yes, sir.
Later that day, the police are back hitting the streets, this time to explain themselves. Buffalo Police Commissioner Joe Gramaglia.
They're going to walk the areas where our SWAT teams were out and engage with the community and let them know why we're here.
Power, persuasion, and a drop in murders. What could be a new way to tackle high crime.
We take you now to the open road. President Biden and the U.S. Departments of Labor and Transportation are pushing for the expansion of trucking jobs as part of an investment in supply chain infrastructure. Errol Barnett introduces us to a woman who's been using her influence to showcase what life is really like behind the wheel.
What's up, everybody?
She is outgoing,
Life is what you make out of it.
outspoken,
If your spouse ever got on your nerves so bad you wonder why they still there,
and out on the roads, sharing what she knows about trucking.
I provide you with different places that's hiring, job searches, and ways you can save money on fuel.
Clarissa Rankin of Charlotte, North Carolina, is a wife and mother of two who is sharing all aspects of life as one of the relatively few women truck drivers.
Why did I become a truck driver?
Amassing more than 1.5 million followers on TikTok, she's one of the most popular truckers on the platform.
Say that again. Say that.
1.5 million who want to see what you're up to each and every day.
Yes.
It is a journey, Rankin says, stemming from necessity.
I went to school for my bachelor's in criminal justice, and I was over $50,000 in debt, and I couldn't find a job in my career.
How has trucking transformed your income?
My first year, I came out making $50,000. Now I'm well over $150,000, and that's just one truck, and that's not counting none of my social media.
Which, with endorsements, can help her earn up to $12,000 additional dollars a month. So we hit the road with Rankin and her truck Sparkle.
I don't think you're ready today, Earl.
I'm ready.
To see what life feels like on 5 axles and 18 wheels.
Come on, baby, come on. Okay, baby, you don't want to use no light today.
You enjoy the view?
I love the road, and it's a break away from life, too, because the only thing you got to worry about is driving the truck. You see how close he was?
Rankin was inspired by her husband Joey, who obtained his commercial driver's license 8 years ago and quickly found work. But when she got her CDL, some employers were blunt.
He said, I would never hire you as my truck driver. He said, I will hire you as my assistant, though. I had 6 interviews, and they all turned me down. A woman actually was the one that gave me my first CDL job, and she believed in me.
That belief now central to Rankin's online messaging, encouraging everyone, especially women, to consider this as a career.
Right now, women only make up 9% of the trucking industry. I want to make it and bring it up to at least 40%.
I do recall on one of her first videos, she was counting money. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, if she can do it, I can do it.
Michelle Locke obtained her trucker's license after being inspired by Rankin. Locke now drives with her husband on long-haul routes across the country.
I can retire from this. I can become a millionaire if that's what I decided I wanted to do. And my mindset was there.
After Rankin's delivery was unloaded, she stopped to refuel, discovering a male truck driver also inspired by her.
I started in April because of her.
Oh!
Really? What was that like?
I do this for the people. So for him to be able to quote everything, my whole platform, and tell me who I am, it's like breathtaking.
Returning home at the end of the day is Rankin's top priority, made possible with Joey working as her dispatcher, giving them control over their schedule, allowing the TikTok star to spend time with her boys.
We sit at the dinner table together. We are a family, and I take pride in that. And that's why I make sure I educate people on my social media to show them, like, no, you still have to put family first. So the money never can make you. You make the money. Y'all know why I do this.
One woman making major moves on the road with her family and followers along for the ride.
We are headed to Michigan after the break, where we'll meet a 12-foot alligator named Godzilla, who is just one of the many reptiles living in an animal sanctuary there. We will be right back. Alligators may not be known as the friendliest or cuddliest of creatures, but they all deserve a safe haven to live. Last July, Charlie DeMar took a visit to a reptile rescue facility, providing a comfortable home for abandoned gators in an unexpected place.
Godzilla is 12 feet long and too heavy for the scale at the Critchlow Alligator Sanctuary.
Godzilla, come up.
He's the biggest of the 200 or so animals here, each with its own story, and too often a troubled past.
The second alligator, his name is Quasi, and actually the one right next to it is Linus. Those two came together, and they were locked in a closet and left for dead.
The roadside refuge has been in Lena Kelly's family for decades.
Did I tell you how many sounds alligators make?
Her dad, David, still leads tours.
After about a year and a half, his backbone straightened right up.
Unfortunately, people purchase them and then don't want to keep them for their lifetime. We have quite a few that came from drug houses or drug raids.
The problem crosses the country. This alligator was pulled from a home in New Hampshire. Officers on a drug raid in California came across one in a rickety tank full of rancid water. 2 5-foot alligators were recently seized from a Kentucky man. And in 2019, Chance the Snapper made headlines after he was dumped in the pond of a Chicago park.
Many of our animals, because they've all been raised by people, they can't go to the wild, so there is no option for them.
So in some cases, these alligators would have nowhere else to go.
Correct, yeah.
So they end up here, a most unexpected oasis nestled in the farm fields near Battle Creek, Michigan.
Most people would never think of gators in Michigan.
And with so many gators turning up where they don't belong, Lena and the staff decided to train animal control professionals. The classes usually sell out, and the students come from all over the Midwest, even Canada. Few have any hands-on experience. Sal Palumbo owns an animal
Even with training, the dangers are high. An alligator is an apex predator. He has capability that a lot of people certainly would never even imagine.
And with the training comes a newfound respect.
And finally, we end our show with a story of hope. A former Ku Klux Klan meeting hall in South Carolina is being transformed into a center for diversity and reconciliation, thanks to an unexpected team of allies. We do have to warn you, though, some of these images are upsetting. Here's Adriana Diaz.
Quiet Lawrence, South Carolina, has harbored an open secret for decades. This, once a segregated cinema, the Echo Theater, was long a meeting place for white supremacists. Inside, the Redneck Shop, which sold Confederate flags, Nazi propaganda, and Ku Klux Klan apparel. Local Reverend David Kennedy had been fighting to close the shop for years.
It has always represented racism and humiliation for the black community.
Humiliation and terror. Kennedy knows the oral history of his own great-great-granduncle's lynching.
As I listened to the story and I connected with the picture, I felt like it was me hanging from the rope.
The theater was a symbol of that hate. This meeting in 2006 included members of the KKK, the Aryan Nation, and the Nazi Party. But the theater's destiny took an almost cinematic turn. The building was owned by a Reformed Klansman who sold it to a black pastor who helped him through tough times. That pastor was Reverend Kennedy.
We knew if we owned it, it would never be a Ku Klux Klan redneck shop again. But the power of the building still lives. Every time I go in there, I have to brace myself.
The shop closed in 2012, and the Reverend's now trying to transform the theater into a symbol of love with the help of his New Beginning Missionary Baptist Church and an unexpected ally.
It's a team effort.
24-year-old Reagan Freeman.
I believe in this. I do not know why it caught on to me. I mean, it's the right thing to do.
Reagan is a breath of fresh air. He's young, he's energetic, he stays pumped up.
There is a reckoning taking place in America.
Freeman was in college when this 2018 60 Minutes story changed his life's course. Oprah Winfrey's report on the memorial honoring the thousands of African Americans lynched in the U.S. revealed an ugly truth about Freeman's home county of Lawrence.
Every name has its own story.
Yes, that's right. Liza Cowan was lynched in Lawrence County, South Carolina.
She was lynched here, and that was never taught to me as I was growing up. It sat with me, and it bothered me to no end.
So was it on that side or that side?
So he did some digging, learned about Reverend Kennedy's goal for the theater, and offered to help.
I cold called Reverend Kennedy for him to take a chance and, let me be a part of this and to help his church, push the rock up the hill. It's the honor of a lifetime.
We might need to...
Freeman's now the executive director of the ECHO Project, the effort to convert the theater into a museum and memorial for diversity and reconciliation. It will display the racist relics it once housed.
Everything we have, ranging from the artifacts to the oral histories of the people who lived this, it illustrates that this is not ancient history. It's our responsibility to really tell the truth here.
How does it feel to have a young Southern white man care about this mission in this deep way?
It's a sign of hope.
The ECHO Project has raised more than $400,000, but needs millions. Reverend Kennedy is undeterred.
Good love got the pump. We're at a critical time. If our democracy is going to be saved, it must not be saved with racism and hatred. It must be saved by love.
Love and the people who spread it.
Pump it up, pump it up. Good love got a pump it up. Oh.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller, and thank you for watching Eye on America.